It took a while for everyone to calm down after waking up from their nightmares. However, as soon as they did so, Tangle and Whisper sat down on their chairs to discuss the analysis of their fears. All right, Whisper began. We are able to review Mimic in your nightmares. Every one of them contained your deepest fear. We will tell you your fears, Tangle added. She turned to Sonic. Sonic, you fear of snakes. Not wanting to exaggerate, the blue hedgehog shook his head, nodded his head. That's right, he said. Snakes scare me to death ever since I was a little hoglet. Back when he was just a hoglet, Sonic once saw his uncle getting bitten by a snake. This led him to his fear of snakes, including oceans. Whisper turned to look at Tails. Tails, your fear of lightning, he said. Yeah, I've always been afraid of lightning when my family and I were out on a picnic when a thunderstorm started, Tails explained. Lavinia, your fear is rats, Tangle said. Lavinia nodded her head and said, Rats are horrifying in my eyes. First time I encountered them was when my father threw me in the dungeon cell for a time out. She began to shake in fear, but she was comforted with her boyfriend. Shadow, you fear of spiders, Whisper said. Shadow reluctantly admitted them. That's true, he said. 50 years ago, one of the scientists at Space Colony Ark got bitten by a black widow spider. I saw it. He took a bit till he could explain. Amy, your fear is zombies, Tangle said. Uh-huh, Amy admitted while nodding. Which is why I vowed to myself to never watch a zombie film again. Rouge, your fear of owls, Whisper said. No doubt about it, Rouge said, crossing her arms. They identified every one of their friends about their fears, and no one dared told a lie. Finally, Whisper turned to Knuckles and said, Knuckles, your fear of ghosts. The red Echidna crossed his arms. That's right, he scoffed. He didn't want to admit his true feelings to his girlfriend. Friend told him off. Knuckles, be honest, Lavinia said. He turned to her head and gave him a dirty look. He knew very well that they're not like it or not, when she's mad, not one bit. Knuckles had to let out a sigh before he spoke. Yes, it's true. Ghosts scare me to the core, he said. To be honest, I don't want anyone to know about it, otherwise people would think I'm short-beaked Echidna. Lavinia smiled at her boyfriend. That's more like it, she said, playing with his dreadlocks. Knuckles rolled his eyes a bit before he smiled at his girl. Tangle looked at her wolf bestie. As soon as she did so, Whisper looked worried. Whisper? Tangle asked, putting her head on her shoulder. You really think I should tell them? Whisper asked, without any question and hesitation. The lemur nodded her head. Whisper took a deep breath and spoke to her friends. Mimic was one of the nightmares of my old team, the Diamond Cutters, she said. We were in the anti-Eggman mercenary team when we were the ones who took the most dangerous missions. During this one mission, Mimic had the entire Diamond Cutters in Eggman's base. Sadly, every one of those members died, all except for me and Mimic. Everyone else began to feel sympathetic for the Whisper. She knew I had gone through a lot of hole like that with Mimic. With help of my best friend Tangle, I was able to bring the octopus down and bring it to the fallen justice by comrades, she continued. But after 3 months, Mimic came into my dream from last night, and he told me that he was dead. But now he lives and haunts in our dreams. He's doing all this so he can get away with and get even with us heroes. They all began to feel horrified of Mimic as well as his motivation. That's terrible, Cream said, holding her pet chow cheese. How much longer can Mimic go on haunting us? Cosmo asked herself. I don't know. Think we could go back to sleep anytime soon? Katarina stated. Actually, Katarina, Lavinia said, I don't think we're ever going to get to go to sleep again. They're all considering of staying awake for the rest of their lives. That way, the shape-shifting octopus wouldn't get to them. In the midst of despair, Sonic began to gather up the courage and hope. Of course we will, he said. All of his friends turned to look at him. What do you mean, Sonic? Amy asked her boyfriend. Mimic is dangerous to us, you know, Silver stated. I know, but hear me out, Sonic said. He explained on what he was talking about. What if we were there to try to face our fears? I think he's crazy, Shadow said. Rouge nudged her boyfriend on the shoulder to get him to listen. How are we going to do that? Big asked. We can have Tangle and Whisper transport from one dream to another to have them help us face our fears, Sonic answered. Yeah, Tangle cheered. What a great idea. Me and Tangle? Whisper asked. He nodded his head, reassuring she couldn't transport into dreams alone. She was also reluctant to have Tangle helping her out of her fear of tossing and turning and losing her best friend. Tangle was Whisper's first friend, and she allowed herself to have her fellow diamond cutters died. The lemur placed her hand on the wolf's shoulder and once again said, "Whisper, we got this." Whisper looked at her friend. "We got this," Tangle repeated. The wolf wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "Hey," Tangle explained, "since we work together on bringing Mimic down before we can work together again to help our friends," she said at a good point, but by the look at the shape everyone was in, Whisper realized that she couldn't take her enemy down alone. They had held their hands and shared a determined smile. "Sonic," Whisper said to the blue hedgehog, "if you're determined that me and Tangle will work together to remove Mimic from our dreams by helping you and your friends overcome your fears, then we'll do that." With that being said, the rest of the friends regained their hope. As a matter of fact, Tails got out his sleeping bag and took out a box that hid behind the dream screens. He opened it and took out 2 watches. "What's that, Tails?" Maria asked. "These are what I call dream transporters," Tails answered. "What do they do?" Jet asked. "These bad boys can transport these users from one dream to another," Tails explained. "They even let the user transport over 1,000,000 dreams." Everyone was amazed at his latest invention. "Now what's that I'm talking about?" Swave said, admiring the young fox's inventing skills. "Yeah, these should be perfect for Tangle and Whisper to give us a helping hand," Espio said. "I just hope that Tails' invention works," Storm said to Jet. Jet agreed with his albatros. "Yeah, now, I kind of have a feeling that it's not just Mimic who's causing the mess," Vector said to Katarina. "Who?" she asked. "I think it might be the doctor," Victor answered. At first, Katarina wanted to tell everyone, but at the same time, she felt that she should keep that a secret until the end. So she figuratively zipped her lips and gave their boss an okay grin sign. "Omega, are you up to watching these screens?" Rouge asked. "Affirmative," Omega said without hesitation. "We're counting on you, Omega," Shadow said, giving his robot ally a thumbs up in return. Omega saluted his leader for his team. It was actually midnight when Tangle checked her watch. "We better hurry up, though. It's almost already midnight," she said. "We have until sunrise to take Mimic down." "You're right," Whisper agreed. She turned to her friends. "Everyone, go back to sleep. Tangle and I will be in your dreams in just a moment." As soon as her fair friends went back to sleep, they put on their dream transporters and began to choose the dream to go. Whisper picked Sonic's dream, where Tangles picked Lavinia's dream, and they all disappeared, and Omega turned to look at the screens. Whisper appeared in Sonic's dream almost instantly. She looked around to find Sonic until she saw the Green Hill Zone. It was peaceful, so she began to wonder whatever Mimic would beat her already. Sonic would be there by now, she thought. However, her thoughts were interrupted by Sonic's screams. Then she realized that the shapeshifter had already beat her because she saw the blue hedgehog running for his life. As soon as she saw the wolf, Sonic stopped running and with a skid. "Whisper, thank Tachyon Chaos you're here," Sonic said. "Sonic, what's going on?" Whisper asked. Now is not the time to explain," Sonic said. "Now is time to run." Whisper wanted to know if he was running away from Mimic, but then she saw a group of snakes, and then she realized that Sonic was running away from slithering reptiles. "Oh my Chaos!" Whisper shouted. "It's a group of snakes." "That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you," Sonic said. "Come on." He grabbed her hand and they began to run. They ran all the way back across the zone at the speed of light in hopes that the snakes would lose track of them. However, at the same time, Whisper was fascinated with the zone's majestic beauty. She could take a moment to enjoy the scenery with Sonic, but due to what's happening at this point, it was best to continue running. They continued to run until they stopped at a cliff, and it was a dead end. "Bummer," Sonic groaned. "It's a dead end." Hugh and Whisper turned around to see snakes catching up to them. He began to sweat in fear, and he couldn't help it. He was frightened by the slivered creatures. Sonic was at the brink of panicking, whereas that he was moaning and groaning in his sleep, as well as tossing and turning in real life. "What are we gonna do?" Sonic asked. "We're gonna get bitten." Contextually, Whisper spotted a stick on the ground, and she looked at it before turning to the snakes. And with that, she got an idea. "Hang on, Sonic," Whisper said, picking up the stick. "Whisper, what are you doing?" Sonic asked. The wolf tossed the stick into the air, and it activated her variable Whisper weapon. Her orange wisp entered the weapon, allowing the rocket mode, not wasting any more time. She shot her wisp at the snake in the air, and it ignited with one side, and Whisper managed to catch it before it could hit the ground. Sonic was amazed at this, but at how she could make a shapeshift torch. Whisper held the torch in front of the snakes, and they stopped at the sight of fire. They began to hiss and slivered backwards. It was then she made a realization about the distance with the flame. "The snakes are afraid of fire," Whisper said. She gave the torch to Sonic. "Use this torch and give it a swing at the snakes." He took the torch and stared at the snakes, and he was nervous to want to do it at first, but after Whisper's hips have encouraged the blue hedgehog, he gathered his courage and then held the torch right in front of the snakes. They slivered backwards as they saw the flame. Sonic knew right then and there that Whisper was right. He also gained enough confidence that he used the torch to his advantage. "What's wrong, guys?" he asked. "You want to play with fire?" He chased the snakes around with the fiery sticks. "Take this," Sonic said, swinging at the slithering creeps. One by one, they all went into the water to get away from the flame. He was so focused on running around the zones and getting rid of the snakes that he didn't notice that he already reached his goal. As soon as he realized this, he threw the torch to the ocean and extinguished it, and it broke down dance of victory. Whisper hovered over to the goal and landed safely right in front of the blue hero. "Well done, Sonic," she said, giving him a smile. "Thanks to you and your wisps," Sonic said. They both did a fist bump. "You want to help me out on trying to get our friends?" she asked. "Sure thing," Sonic answered. "In that case," Whisper said, "let's head to Shadow's dream." She used the transporter and picked up Shadow's dream. Sonic and Whisper held hands and disappeared in real life. Sonic stopped moaning and snoring quietly. Around the same time, Tangle appeared in Lavinia's dream, and she wandered through the house looking for the cat. "Lavinia!" she called. "Are you there?" Within the matter of seconds, Tangle heard Lavinia screaming in the kitchen. She raced to the kitchen to only find that it was once looked on the other side. She had no choice but to break it down. After the door was broken down, she entered the room to find Lavinia on the counter, kicking at the rats. Tangle jumped to the counter where the cat was. "Tangle!" Lavinia cried. "Lavinia, how did you get here?" Tangle asked. "Mimic sent them here," Lavinia replied. "He pretended to be like my biological mother and taunted me with these hideous things." Both the girls tried to kick the rats down in hopes to not get them, but they suddenly began to feel tired after they're kicking them too much. "Hey, Lavinia," Tangle said. "Do you have this magic flute thingy?" "You mean the mystic melody?" Lavinia corrected. "Yeah, that's it," Tangle said, clapping her hands once. "Remember that Pied Piper story?" "I think so," Lavinia answered. "Then you should use your mystic melody on these rats," Tangle suggested. "Okay," Lavinia said. She summoned the transverse flute. "I hope this works," Lavinia said under her breath. She began to play a dancing tune, and the rats stopped climbing and began to dance around the kitchen. Tangle jumped down from the counter and opened the back door, whereas Lavinia did the same thing and led them to the back of the porch. After every last one of the rats was out of the house, Lavinia quickly ran back inside and closed the door. "Whoo-hoo!" Tangle cheered. "You did it, Lavinia. You showed those rats who's boss." "We did it, Tangle," Lavinia said. "I performed this for the rats, and you helped me face my fear." They both shared a hug. "We got more dreams to save," Tangle mentioned. "You in?" "I'm so in," Lavinia said confidently. "All right," Tangle said as she picked Tails' dream on her transporter. The girls held hands and they disappeared in real life. Lavinia slept peacefully. A few seconds later, Sonic and Whisper were in Sunset Heights, meaning that they were in Shadow's dream. Especially because they appeared on one of the buildings on the city. "Where's Shadow?" Sonic asked. "He should be here by now," Whisper thought. Their wonders were interrupted when they heard Shadow scream. They looked down to see that the ultimate lifeform was running away from an army of spiders. They saw that the black hedgehog was in dire need of assistance at this point. Thus, Sonic and and Whisper decide to hurry up and help them face the fear. Meanwhile, Shadow kept on running from the Archments until he bumped into a brick wall. "Shoot," he said under his breath. "It's a dead end." He turned around to see the creepy crawlers coming closer and straight towards him. Shadow couldn't take it anymore, shouted, "I want to wake up!" Before the spiders could attack him, Whisper shot her wisps at one of the armies with a variable wispin. "Whisper!" Shadow exclaimed in addition. Sonic performed his homing attack on the other third of the spiders. "Sonic!" Shadow cried. He couldn't believe that his allies were there to help him. They left the last third of the spider army for the ultimate life form. Shadow's face was pale as a sheet. He didn't want to take down the creepy crawlers on his own, but his friends encouraged him. "Shadow, you need to face your fears of spiders," Whisper said. "They're smaller and weaker than you are," Sonic added. "You should take this as your advantage." Shadow gulped and looked at the spiders. He then turned to look at his friends and shook his fear off. "You're right," he said. "It's time that I show these disgusting things what I'm made of." And with that being said, Shadow jumped out and began to his fire spear-shaped energy. "Chaos Spear!" he yelled. He fired at these echinoids, causing them to be stunned, and the ultimate life form took his advantage and performed his homing attack on them. By the time he was finished, there were no more spiders left. Shadow was relieved at his fear that had been over 50 years. "Nice job, Shadow," Sonic said, giving him a thumbs up. "You did great," Whisper said, smiling at him. Shadow smirked a bit and said, "Thanks a bunch, aren't you all, guys?" All of them decided to continue to the right for the night and help get some rest on their friends. Facing their fears, they decided to enter Amy's dream next. Tangle and Lavinia helped Tails face his fears by shielding him from the lightning strikes in his dream. Sonic and Shadow and Whisper helped Amy fight against the zombies in their dream, and they all continued to the rest of their friends' dreams and successfully assisted them out by their fears. By the time everyone fought their deepest, darkest fears, their dreams were saved once again. They all began to celebrate their victory. Sonic and Tails shared the best friend hug. "We did it," Tails said. "We faced our fears," Sonic said. "I knew we could do it," Knuckles stated. The Chaotix agreed with the Echna. "That is how it's done right," Rouge said, wrapping her arms around Shadow. He looked at her and smiled at her. "All right," Silver cheered, levitating into the air. "Great job," Amy said, giving the psychic hedgehog a thumbs up. "We all deserve a good old pat on the back," Jet said as he patted his team on the back. Tangle and Whisper shared a joyless hug. They thought that it was over, but however, they still had to find Mimic and remove them from their dreams. "We may have helped you guys with your fears, but we're not done yet," Tangle said. "What do you mean by that, mate?" Marine asked. "We still need to find Mimic and stop him from haunting our dreams," Whisper explained. "They're right," Sonic said. Then the others turned to look at the blue hedgehog. "Once we fooled Mimic, he would continue to haunt our dreams, so we need to stop that shapeshifter once and for all." They all agree. "Where could it be this time?" Charmy thought. "I don't know," Bookun asked, shrugging his shoulders. But then they saw something up in the sky. "Hey, look," Bookun announced, pointing up the sky. "There's a bright light." Everyone else turned to the robot's direction and saw a blue light in the distance. "What in the world is that?" Marine asked. "Is it over?" Katarina asked. "No, it's not over yet," Blaze answered. "We can't let our guard down." As the light went closer and closer, they heard Dr. Eggman's evil laughter. "What's that?" Big asked. "That sounded like Eggman," Lavinia answered. Whispered raised her weapon pin that we just went into a cube and said, "Eggman? Aha!" Vector bragged. "I knew it!" "What's going on?" Amy asked. "I don't know," Sonic said, "but I got a bad feeling about this." The light went through so bright that everyone had to brace themselves for the worst when it was all completely white.